nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Weather today, no wind. That wind yesterday was brutal. Oh, yeah. I'm coming back to Irv. Okay, I'm going to come back to Irv. Ready? Wait, shot. Here we go, everybody's moving. Everybody's moving. We got a beautiful day today. What more could you ask for? Out an edge split. Just edge split, an edge split. Thank you. That's a serious aircraft coming in there.
Dude, he is. I watched that clip like 3 times yesterday on Viking social media. Kirk Cousins mic'd up. I was like, God, what does this remind me of? It's those progressive commercials where they've got like the doctor guy who's instructing you on how not to be like your parents.
Oh yeah.
Or they're like in the stadium parking lot, and boy, I bet this parking lot can hold about 10,000 cars. We don't.
That's
need to
where the
talk
money is. You know, that's where all the money is.
No more talking about parking.
Yeah.
Weather discussion. Kirk Cousins is the master of small talk. Every time he's mic'd up, it's just like a series of small talk snippets.
Look at that plane.
The weather, the
plane,
the music. Oh, listen to the music being played. Amazing.
So
what a connector of teammates and humans. That guy.
So here's a small thing. I'd be curious to know the amount of guys who and look, there have been some good QBs who certainly have. He seems to notice things going on around him that some guys absolutely don't. Like last year when there was a fan in the stands with a Kirk sign or something, and they showed it on the scoreboard, and Kirk was like mic'd up and talking about it.
Well, I think it's, as someone who's mildly introverted, I'm more introverted than extroverted just in my day-to-day life. I think sometimes when you feel, I think you just resort to like pointing out things that are happening around you, right? It's like you're trying to break the ice with someone, or you're trying to fill the silence, and so you talk about, oh, this thing over here, or the weather, it's very nice. And also, Kirk Cousins is officially a Minnesotan because the amount of times he just brings up the weather out of nowhere fits right in. Like, when's the last time you got in an elevator with someone for more than about 10 seconds and didn't talk about the weather in Minnesota? Like,
Great
Kirk Cousins is
it's the icebreaker, baby. It's the icebreaker. Hey, nice day. Plus, it avoids, like, it basically gets you around conversation, right?
Right.
Because, like, it then the door opens, the person or you walk out, you're done.
That's my sense with Cousins, is that he only had, like, him and Thielen, I think, are pretty tight. But it feels like no one really hates him, but he just has a bunch of small talk, surface level relationships with pretty much everyone around him, except for his wife, his dad, and like Adam.
So he's basically me.
He's Judd. You guys have way more in common than we would have thought.
That is very
maybe you guys can come together over awkward small talk at some point.
That is very frightening because that sounds exactly like me. He just tries to make small talk and, hey, what's going on? Hello.
Can you, instead of asking him like pressing questions about, the Vikings offense and the difference between Kevin O'Connell and Mike Zimmer, why don't you try a new path where you just float him an observation about the weather? Just take the ping pong paddle and just, hit the ball over to his side.
I could do it as he walks up to the podium.
Kirk, boy, really nice day out today, huh? That wind kind of calmed down.
What a day. You know what? As he walks up to the podium, I might try and just get that in to see if we can break the ice a little bit.
We're going to need more than what a day from you, though. You're going to have to up your weather small talk game.
To what?
Well, we need more than what a day. There needs to be some context.
Gorgeous out here.
Boy, that sun's really peeking through the clouds here, and that breeze feels pretty good out there on the practice field, huh, Kirk?
I feel that's too much for me.
Okay. Well,
I'm a nice day, right? That's just me.
You need to work on your weather small talk game. This is Purple daily weather discussion and Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. The show is presented by Surly Brewing Company and TCL TVs. Redefine creativity with the TCL 30V 5G smartphone. Bet you didn't know they had smartphones too. Enjoy blazing fast 5G speed with an AI-powered 50-megapixel triple camera system. Ultra-realistic and true-to-life visuals powered by Next Vision. Learn more at TCL.com. So, the chatter for, 5 months now has been all about how bad Mike Zimmer was and how great Kevin O'Connell is going to be. And I think we're all that would be nice. It would be nice to see a great offensive-minded head coach here with the Vikings. But you floated the idea to us a couple days ago. Why don't we actually lay some things out here? I don't know if it's like a to-do list or a checklist, but what are some things that you think KOC should or may do or implement that Mike Zimmer either didn't or refused to or was bad at? What are the things that you want to see on that list?
I started to make this list, and it's incredible how much it spans, especially from the last 2 years, about what Mike didn't do. And again, I'll go back to continue to say I think it was just a time thing with Mike, like it had run its course. Because it always feels like this begins like a dumping on Mike, like his tenure was a failure, a miserable failure, which is just simply not true. So I think it's important to defend him a bit. But when you go back to the last 2 years and really how uncomfortable things seem to get, when it comes to what Kevin's going to bring, I think there's a lot of things. And among them is this. I think the way that he's going to see the game and implement things is going to be incredibly productive, obviously offensively, but defensively too, and here's why. In Mike's day-to-day life, I think Mike was intent on getting to quarterbacks, stopping offenses, and like he saw everything through the prism of defense. I don't know if he did a great job, especially at the end, of sort of sharing with the offense what he hated. Like, Mike, I really think deep down, and look, he spent, the majority of his coaching career just simply on the defensive side of the ball and was very successful. But don't you think, Mike deep down hated offenses. Like, he wanted to stop them. He wanted to blow up quarterbacks. He didn't want them to be successful. And I don't know if he had a mind to like share with, okay, I hate seeing this, I hate seeing that. I'm sure he did that at times. But if you think about what O'Connell's going to bring here, it's a really interesting discussion, because I think in addition to talking to the QB, which seems like no duh, but Mike did not, and also implementing things on offense that's flat out going to make guys like Jefferson and Cook more successful, and Cousins hopefully. I think what he can share, as far as what he hates to see from defenses with his own defense, could actually be really helpful, because like he knows he's going to come in here with a very good idea, we think, of how offenses are successful in 2022, and probably just as importantly what offenses in 2022 don't want to see, right? Like this look gives me problems, this look is great to see. And so I think just from a simple schematic standpoint of prepping for games, Kevin O'Connell's going to bring a very interesting observational power on probably both sides of the ball, which I don't know that Mike had the capability to share those type of things.
It's so weird because Mike spent 8 years mostly focused, like you said, on, okay, how are offenses operating and how do we stop these mostly passing attack offenses, right? And these some of these zone run blocking schemes defensively, right? But then I almost feel like he never flipped it around in the way that you're saying, to say, okay, what's the hardest thing for us to defend in the run game and in the passing game? And then how can we do that offensively? I think he was always about making sure that the offense didn't screw things up for the defense, as opposed to, okay, how can we take what's hardest for us to deal with defensively and then do that offensively? It was just, all right, offense, let's not get out over our skis too much here. By the way, I have a list of 4 things on my checklist that I will get to later in the show, but one of them revolves around just the conservative nature of the opposite side of the ball that you're used to. I think it's probably human instinct in some ways to say, okay, we can get really complicated and we can level up defensively and we can do calculus, because that's my forte. But I don't know offense quite as well, and so I don't want us to be doing things that are sort of beyond my comprehension. Let's just play it safe on the opposite side of the ball. I guess the equivalent to that would be, okay, we're going to be super complicated on offense here because I'm Kevin O'Connell and I have an offensive background. But let's just, let's not get too complicated on defense here. Let's just kind of sit back in the zone and, let's not get beat over the top.
Yeah.
So how does he handle the opposite side of the ball is going to be really interesting. Agreed.
Yep. And he knows too exactly what causes problems for both sides of the ball now. Like, I think Mike, again at the end, okay? I think Mike at the end, I think he had his views and his thoughts about how things should run, but I don't know that they fit what became the game by the last 2 years. I really don't. Like, there were things, that defense, and yes, the personnel, Hunter being out was certainly a problem. So I'm not saying that Mike had an easy go. But that being said, it definitely felt like the last great game that Mike coached defensively was the 2019 playoff game against the Saints. And after that, there was just sort of a drop-off. And Kevin is going to bring, I would think, really an updated view of what causes problems, what is a success. Like, when you go back to the fact that the Vikings the last 2 years had their principles on both sides of the ball, right? And didn't really waver from them, didn't really like think outside the scope of, Justin Jefferson is being taken out of this game. Bleep that. We're going to find a way not to. So I think that's a big step. As far as, Phil, my thoughts on in-game, I think it's very simple too. And O'Connell has a much better fighting chance than Mike did here. And that is probably the most important thing, managing the game. Not being, emotional at a bad call and throwing the red flag. Not being upset and calling a timeout when you shouldn't, or just as importantly, not calling one when you should. I love the fact that O'Connell's going to have a coach who basically is focused on that. I think that is smart. I think that it is malpractice right now not to do that. But, I think we're going to see, or we certainly should see, an incredible shift in how games are managed and the calmness and the fact that, there's not going to be a bad call. O'Connell takes one look at the Jumbotron and just throws the flag. And it's like, I wouldn't have done that. So to me, that can be the difference between a win and a loss in the moment.
I think just general competency in the last 4 minutes of halves, period. Like whether it's challenge flags or it's all of the game theory stuff. Coaches put so much time and energy into scheming and watching film and breaking down their roster, and all those things are very important. You can't go in unprepared schematically or game plan wise, but I almost feel like a handful of games every single year come down to not the scheme and not the preparation for the opposing team. Like the game is just going to be close late, and you have to find a way to make sure they don't get the ball back or make sure that you've preserved 3 timeouts. Why are you calling a timeout on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 12 or something when the play clock's running down early in the third quarter? Stuff like that I feel like Mike never really thought of. He would just burn a timeout here, or they would butcher clock management in a situation, right? Like they just never had a full grasp on it. I think there's been other coaches in Vikings history that have been worse. Mike Tice comes to mind as kind of a spastic challenge flag thrower and a guy that wasn't totally in control in some of those situations, but
yeah, he did.
Brad Childress was kind of an overthinker, and there were obviously some communication issues in his biggest game in the NFC Championship game. But yeah, like just having, and I don't know, I don't know how you practice that. That's the hard part. If you're going to be Kevin O'Connell, you can kind of simulate it in training camp, and I'm sure you can watch film and stuff, but you can't simulate the bullets are flying. It's a regular season game. You're on the road. The crowd's going crazy, and you're trying to call offensive plays. Like, it is a lot to process.
And offensively, that is where it's absolutely, it's always been important, but now it's imperative that you have a partnership with your quarterback. The fact that Cousins, and I'm not even blaming him, okay? But the fact that Cousins said at the end of the game last year, well, I don't call timeouts.
Yeah,
such an indictment. Like, it cannot be on Kevin O'Connell to run the end of the game. And everybody else is like, well, I don't do this. Like, you have to have, it's got to be like a law firm. O'Connell and Cousins and Sons.
You need to delegate it to your quarterback, because you can't have two cooks in the kitchen in that situation, especially with if he was 25 years old and the NFL was still pretty new. Okay, listen, Kyler Murray, check with me. Justin Herbert, I trust you, but let's have this out. You're 34 years old. You've been a starting quarterback for almost 10 years. It's your show to run, dude. So spend the entire offseason if you're not already comfortable with it, and I don't know that Kirk fully is, because he's kind of said, I don't really call timeouts. That's one of the biggest pet peeves I've had with Kirk, which is, dude, you are a grown-ass quarterback in your 30s. You throw for 4,000 yards every year. This is your show to run. So run the show. You shouldn't have to be looking to the sidelines for a timeout. And like Russell Wilson, and he's got some flaws too. Russell Wilson literally spends 20 minutes pregame running phantom 2-minute drill offenses by himself on the field, right? Before fans are in the stadium.
Absolutely.
Like literally practicing hurry up, timeout, this, that. Like it's kind of a weird dog and pony show, but he runs the show. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, those guys aren't looking to the sidelines to figure out who calls timeout. Yep. Oh my God, is it? Oh, should we? No. Oh, shit. Well, no, dude, you run the show.
And that's the type of thing that before the season starts has to be determined. Like Kirk, when we are in X, Y, and Z situation, you are in control. So like that's the type of thing. Because I'm with you. I don't know that you can necessarily like practice the full thing. You try, but it's hard to do. But I think the one thing that has to be made entirely clear is, Kirk, you don't work here. You control here.
You almost need to, this sounds stupid. You almost need to like play Madden twice a day or something. Like Kirk, we're going to teach you how to play PlayStation. You just sit here for 2 hours.
I'd watch that series. I'd watch that series.
Yeah, no, it actually sounds intriguing.
That's the best way to simulate it, right?
I mean, if it works, who cares? Right?
Kirk, buddy, we need you to be a gamer for 2.5 hours every single night when you put the kids down to bed.
But this 1,000% now has to be a partnership. This has to be a partner. If this is not, if Kirk maintains the philosophy of Kevin's in control and I'm going to do my best, this is going to fail.
Speaking of partnerships, one of our new partnerships here is sitting right in front of Judd right now. Folly Coffee, subscription coffee.
That's exactly right. Welcome to the world of subscription coffee, where with the folks at Folly, once you've got the coffee coming, guess what? You don't run out. So you don't get to that, oh my God, I'm down to one coffee. What am I going to do? Folly is a local company with the simple mission of providing you, and I'm going to tell you right now, they've been successful here, the best coffee available. Named the best Minnesota online coffee retailer by Corporate Vision magazine. Fully customizable coffee subscription to match how much coffee you drink and your favorite flavors. Go to follycoffee.com. Use the code word SCORE, SKOR, for 10% off your initial order. Again, code word SCORE, SKOR, and it is, as you can see if you're watching this right now, FOLLY coffee.com. They do not disappoint. If you like coffee as much as I do, Folly Coffee is where to go.
Also, hello to our friends at Dennis Kirk. They've been a partner of ours here at Score North and Purple Daily for a couple years now. And they do a great job providing you guys who like to ride Harleys, metric cruisers, sport bikes, whatever it is during these summer months with parts, accessories, service, free shipping on orders over $89, and just rock solid service all around. Get in gear and head to DennisKirk.com. Ride more, weight less. Ride more, weight less at DennisKirk.com. All right, do you want my list here? My list is a little different than your list here. Things that I want or that I think he may do, Kevin O'Connell, that Mike Zimmer was maybe deficient at. Let's start with number one here, which is eye contact with players in the hallways, okay? And I mean that literally, and I also mean it more just symbolically. You heard the players griping, Brian O'Neill, the team leaders who came out and spoke right after everyone got fired. And Eric Kendricks referred to it as a culture of fear. And Brian O'Neill said, yeah, I mean, this might sound dumb, but, as we walk through the hallways, the coaching staff just always had their head down, and there weren't great personal and one-on-one relationships. Mm-hmm. Kevin O'Connell has gone out of his way a dozen times already, I feel like, in press conferences to talk about not only are we going to build those relationships, but if you can't build those relationships, you will not be on this coaching staff. It is a huge deal to make those one-on-one connections with players. And you know what? When Mike Zimmer came up through the coaching ranks back in the 90s and early 2000s, I don't know, that generation of players, Gen X, probably didn't care as much about human connection and, the relationships in the office. But you know what? Gen Z and millennials, they do care about that stuff. And so Kevin O'Connell has a better chance to connect with these guys being, 30 years younger than Mike Zimmer and understanding just how millennials operate. The guys like Declan and I, we just need a little love, all right? Just need a little,
little assurance.
just a little
I'm not gonna
validation in our lives, right?
Yeah, little about. It's very important. Very important to me.
Yeah. Number 2, I want Kevin O'Connell to avoid mentally wrecking his kickers. Mike Zimmer left a trail of mentally broken kickers, starting with Blair Walsh, down to Daniel Carlson, who, by the way, got fixed very quickly when he went to the Raiders and became one of the 5 best kickers in the NFL a couple years later. Dan Bailey, just a good, solid veteran kicker who just was, that Tampa Bay game just absolutely ruined his entire mental makeup and career. And even Greg Joseph, who rebounded after that missed kick against the Cardinals, he missed the kick against the Cardinals for one and cost them a game. And the new coaching staff is even questioning his mental toughness by bringing in a competition during training camp. So can Kevin O'Connell somehow just avoid mentally wrecking his kickers? It's number 2 on my list.
I'm very confident that he can. I'm very confident that he is
Are
not
you very
going
confident?
to.
It's Vikings kickers.
I'm not saying that they won't screw up. I don't think that they're going to screw up, though, because they're in fear of their coach, which is how I felt with Mike eventually.
Yeah, Mike just he poured gas
kickers
on the fire, man.
He hated quarterbacks and kickers. He did because his life's work was to stop the quarterback, and I don't think in his mind he could process that he put in all of this work and all of these big men hitting all day long, and then it came down to a guy's little footy.
Well, that's how the league works. I mean, look at some of Adam Vinatieri. You play the entire game, and then you run this guy. You basically run a golfer out there to to put one through the uprights. And then Mike Zimmer, as he's standing on the tee box, maybe having struggled with his last couple drives, Mike Zimmer's the guy that says, better not hit this one into the woods left or you're going to be in trouble or you're going to lose your job. And it's like, well, what's that guy going to think about when he walks up to tee up his ball?
Guy was crying.
Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God.
Oh, God, I don't want to do this anymore.
Number 3 on my list, things that Kevin O'Connell should do that Mike Zimmer didn't. Throw the ball more on second down.
Oh, yeah.
So second and long, I just went and dug up these stats again this morning. It was actually a little better last year. It's almost like the Vikings got somewhat through, like the front office analytics people must have somewhat gotten through to Kubiak and Zimmer, but it still wasn't great last year. On second and long, the Vikings ranked 24th in pass rate. So the mantra there was, okay, it's second and long. Let's make it third and manageable by running the ball, right? Let's give Dalvin the rock one more time here to go from 2nd and 10 to ideally 3rd and 5 or something, right? Like they're only thinking about making it third and manageable as opposed to it's second and long. We have 2 amazing wide receivers and KJ Osborne and Kirk Cousins, pretty damn good clean pocket quarterback. Let's just get a first down. Let's pick up 9 yards. Let's pick up 14 yards. They went into conservative, especially when they would lose yardage on first down. It was like, oh, God. Oh, we don't want to lose more yardage by taking a sack or something. So let's. And then, of course, the Vikings, I think, ranked pretty high in terms of the most no-gain and lost yardage run plays, which only added to this terrible play-calling philosophy. On second and short, when the entire playbook is wide open, the opposing team doesn't know what you're going to do because it's 2nd and 3. You could run the ball for a first down. You could run play action. You could just drop back and throw the ball. The Vikings were 19th in pass rate on second and short, which was actually better, much better than, I think they were like 27th the previous year. But I'd like to see them just open it up a little bit more on second down as opposed to playing second down for third down, you know?
Right. Well, I think to your point from before, Phil, I think the important thing to keep in mind now is for the first time in a long time, the offense isn't going to be basically trying to serve the defense's agenda. So it's going to be the opposite probably. So, because I always felt like there was this, well, let's get that first down, but they really wanted to matriculate down the field slowly to keep the defense off. So it's like they didn't want to, like, I think it's probably in retrospect inexcusable, the lack of attempted quick strikes. Because it felt like the thought process from Mike was always, well, then my defense has to go back out there right away, right?
Yeah.
And
they did anyways. The Vikings led the league in 3 and outs.
I know,
anyways, because they're trying to get too matriculating.
Exactly, but in his mind, he's thinking, okay, we're going to run the ball, then we're going to get a first down, and we're going to move slowly down the field. And it's like, okay, first of all, it's 2020, 21 at that point. Second of all, you've got Justin Jefferson and like you've got these guys that can definitely get the football. So anyway, yeah, I think that is going to change immediately. I don't think that's going to be a problem anymore.
I'm curious. I'm just going to look this up real quick here before I give you my fourth point. It feels like the Vikings were in a lot of third down situations that were unnecessary because they were so conservative with play calling on second down. And sure enough, yeah, here it is. Okay, so the Vikings had the 7th most third down attempts in the NFL. This was my theory, is that they're in third down all the time because they're not aggressive enough. This is actually kind of crazy. So the Vikings last year averaged 2 more third down attempts per game offensively than the Rams did. It might not seem like a lot, but how many possessions do you get in a game? Like 8 or 10 or something?
And third and what's too.
And there's a whole deep dive into this.
3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, now it's 3rd and 9.
And so the Rams converted third downs at 44%. Vikings were 36%. So the Vikings were not very good on third down last year.
Yep.
And the Rams, so the Rams converted their third downs at a higher clip and had 2 fewer third downs per game. Efficiency.
Absolutely. Well, and what I found to be the most interesting about the stuff that came out about when Mike and Kirk finally met once a week was, Mike supposedly told Kirk, cut it loose more often, man. You got to cut it loose more often. But we don't really know, like that. You can say that, but one is that if you then throw a pick in a game, that does not mean that Mike is going to say, hey, congratulations. And two, again, if you think about the situational football approach here, right? Like, it's one thing to be like, cut it loose. But okay, cool. But on 2nd down and 9, you're calling for a run. So now you're putting me in a 3rd down that's sort of a pickle. So like, hey, you should do this. All right, are you putting me, and more importantly, the entire offense, in the best position to succeed? And I think consistently, at least in 2021, the answer was no.
Yeah. Yep. So third down in general is just a really interesting thing offensively. So the Vikings were 26th in third down rate, just ahead of the Jets, Jaguars, Panthers, Lions, Bears, and Saints.
Barf.
So you look at all those teams and say, oh, those are like the most garbage quarterback situations in the league last year. And then the Vikings sitting right on top of that heap. And of course, the blame's going to go to offensive line and Mike Zimmer. The quarterback needs to be better on third down as well. And third down is the down where they know you're going to pass. And it becomes a little, you might have to improvise a little bit more, or you might face some more pressure. And those are the situations that Kirk needs to be better in. But interesting. And then the fourth one here, on my list of things that I want KOC to do that Mike Zimmer either didn't or just wasn't good at is offensive line development. If you look at a list, this is kind of crazy. During the Mike Zimmer era, so Rick Spielman said, all right, here's the offensive linemen we're going to give you. Not all of them are perfect, but it's your job to develop some of these guys. So Brian O'Neill is great. He's a win for sure. I think Christian Darrisaw, I mean, it's hard to tell last year, but he really was pretty damn solid the last 4 or 5 games. I think there's enough to grow into a franchise left tackle there. If you look at every other offensive lineman drafted during the Mike Zimmer era between the first round and the 5th round, so like the real prospects, not the 7th round flyers, like the real prospects. Listen to this list. David Yankee, TJ Clemmings, Willie Beavers, Danny Isadora, Pat Elflein, Drew Samia, Garrett Bradbury, Ezra Cleveland, who's kind of become an average guard. I think, we'll count that as a win. And Wyatt Davis. You're telling me that Rick Spielman just whiffed on all those guys? Or was it, these guys are pretty talented, or at least half of them, and the coaching staff had no idea how to develop them? That's to whiff on all those guys just from a scouting standpoint seems unlikely to me.
The right guard situation last season to me is the Vikings' abject failure offensive line-wise in a nutshell. Again, I'm going to tell you how off the charts it is to call a guy basically in July who is a right tackle, who might not be that good at right tackle, you don't know, and say, we're moving you to right guard. That is one of the most inexcusable, if you have any hopes of being good, which, by the way, the Vikings did clearly, That is one of the most inexcusable phone calls I've ever heard made about a position change. Yeah. And, I think fans say at times, well, yeah, but Judd, it's offensive line. Well, no, the tackle and guard positions are different. And to call that kid and say, we are moving you is to set him up for failure. And I don't know if, they thought that Davis was going to play there and then that didn't work out or what. But that is that to me is the disconnect between the coaching staff and probably Spielman as well that encapsulates what went wrong here.
Yeah. By the way, later today, we're going to get you Judd's OTA observations. He'll be out there today and tomorrow. So we'll give you a bonus episode of Purple Daily later on today. And before we wrap, we're going to get to what people are saying about the Vikings here. There's an interesting snippet from our guy, Peter Schrager. But, cheers to OTA. Actually, it's not OTAs. It's mandatory minicamp. This is a step up. Sorry.
We're serious now.
It's my bad. This is a step up.
We're serious now, Phil.
Cheers to mandatory minicamp, Judd.
You know what? I just looked this up. 2 weeks from today, boys, officially the summer solstice begins. And I am declaring this right now, the summer of Surly. This is the summer of Surly. This is the summer where if you're not on board with the best beer around, you're going to get on board. And of course, the quarterback here, the star player, in my opinion, will always be Furious, which is a fantastic beer. But as Dex can tell you too, there's so many good beers here. Logic Bomb is one I bonded with on Saturday. Absolutely love that. So let me introduce you, and you can show us your cans at Jay Zolgad on Twitter. Summer of Surly begins 2 weeks from today. Be prepared to celebrate.
I love it. Summer of Surly. Let's get it. When you're bonding with your can of Surly, I need to see what that. Are you like talking to it? Are you holding its hand? Are you?
Hello.
Well, I hold it like this, and I got a delicious, and I got a mug. I was actually doing a mug in the freezer and rotating them.
Oh, wow.
Saturday. So I'd put one in, pour a delicious, delicious Surly. Then I'd get the other mug out and put the other one in.
That is a power move, big time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Our friends at Federated, too, are helping raise money for Big Brothers Big Sisters again this summer, and they've been doing so, $44 million worth since 2005. And Big Brothers Big Sisters is all about providing children facing adversity with strong and enduring, professionally supported one-to-one mentoring relationships. There's over 5,000 bigs in Minnesota right now. If you want to be a big and you want to make an impact on someone's life, find out more at federatedchallenge.org. That's federatedchallenge.org. Okay, what are people saying about the Vikings? Peter Schrager from Good Morning Football, NFL Network. He ranked his top 5 receivers under the age of 25 yesterday on GMFB.
Okay.
Number 5 was A.J. Brown. Number 4 was DK Metcalf. Number 3, CeeDee Lamb. Number 2, Jamar Chase. And number 1, Justin Jefferson. I think he's probably right there. I think a lot of people would say Jamar Chase because of, the numbers and everything. And Jamar Chase got a bigger spotlight playing through the playoffs and Super Bowl. But I think this is right. I think Justin Jefferson's the best receiver under 25.
Statistically, this guy has had 2 incredible years. And here's the catch. No pun intended. We look at his stats, and if you've watched the games, think there's more there, right?
Yeah.
Like go and look. He basically has had a first 2 years that are record setting. Okay, but if you've watched him, you think he could be used way more. So I think that's exactly right. Now, if we were to rank the best quarterback, young receiver combinations, Burrow and Chase. But if we're going to separate them and just say the receiver list, I think Schrager's dead on this.
And that means that if everything keeps going the way that it's going in health and some of the older receivers age out, Devonta Adams ages out, right? DeAndre Hopkins, et cetera, you could make a case now that he's one of the 3 best receivers in the NFL. I think in a year or 2, especially with an offensive system, he's going to be regarded as the best receiver in the NFL before too long. The Vikings have an amazing legacy of wide receivers, man. Randy Moss, Chris Carter. I mean, he'll go back to Ahmad Rashad, Anthony Carter, those guys in the 80s. And then Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson. Let's pay it off at some point here. Get one of those guys a Vince Lombardi trophy. Just one before we die.
Little ring?
Just one.
A little ring?
Just one.
Just one before we die.
We'll be back later with Judd's mandatory minicamp observations for you guys, and then write that down. Predictions tomorrow. This is Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment.